My name is Derek Gates. I graduated in 1980. My degree was in electrical engineering. I was born in 1957 in England. My father was in the Air Force and he was stationed at an Air Force base in England. I'm the second of 5 children to Norman and Eddie Faye Gates. So I grew up as an Air Force brat for my first 12 years. As a young child, my dad retired from the Air Force when I was about 11 and moved to Oklahoma. My mother is a former history teacher and historian. My father was in the Air Force and worked as an engineer for a public service company before he retired. They both passed on. I have a late wife, Cheryl Swinton, who I met at OSU. And with her, I have 2 children, Allison and Chutney. I have a new partner, fiance, Dr. Dale Flinyall. I have 2 brothers, Norman and Kevin Gates, and I have 2 sisters, Diane Gates Anderson and Donna Gates Kelly. That's my family. I loved science. I loved math. I loved reading. I loved building things. And that was just in my heart to do that. And my parents saw that and they encouraged it. So they would buy me science books. They would buy me, one year for Christmas, I got a telescope. Another year I got a microscope, you know. So I was that kid that wanted to be a scientist. It just seemed like something I wanted to do. I went to school at Edison High School in Tulsa. During that time, quite a few people from Edison went to OSU. I've always heard good things about the school. I heard good things about engineering from Oklahoma State University. So early on, that's where I wanted to go to school. It just seemed to make sense for me. That's the only school I wanted to go. It's the only school I actually applied for. I really enjoyed Oklahoma State University. I think it was everything I expected it to be. A lot of growth happened during my years here. When I first came on campus, I was 17 years old. My first class was in the summer of 1975. It was just exciting to be here. I think I got everything out of the school I could get. I did the social life, the academic life, the extracurricular activities, everything was great. I'm one of the few students that lived on campus the whole 4 years. I lived in Bennett Hall. Bennett was like my home away from home. I met my wife in Bennett Hall. We were crossing the street in front of the football stadium and our eyes kind of crossed. Turns out at the time I had a phone and she didn't have a phone and she wanted to use the phone to call her grandmother in Muskogee, so that was my way to entrap her. I made a lot of good friends in life. Many of the best friends I have are people I met when I was on campus at Oklahoma State University. So I was very fortunate when I graduated in 1980. There was a real demand for engineering students. There probably is now, but at that time, most students that graduated had several job opportunities or offers in hand. I determined that I wanted to stay in Oklahoma. At that time, I was getting ready to get married. I wanted to be close to my family and her family. I did have an offer in California with Lockheed for a missile engineering facility. I had another offer from the Navy. The Navy offer was pretty intriguing because it was going to be being trained as an officer for a nuclear submarine. In another situation, I probably would have taken that. It would have been a good career choice, but I decided I was going to work in oil and gas. So my first job was with City Service Oil and Gas Company in Tulsa. Of course, when you graduate and you start working, your fear is you don't know anything. And they kind of know that, so they train you. And I was doing power design for refineries and gas plants. And it was a very good experience. Went to work for Amoco in Tulsa at the research center. And at Amoco, I was doing work in their lab designing seismic equipment. This is equipment you use to search for oil underground, electronics. I worked there for 7 years. Then I found a job at a small engineering design firm in Tulsa called Dresser Engineering. And we did what I did at City Service Company. I was in Tulsa, we designed gas plants, water treatment plants, and I did the electrical power for that. And I thought it was a good job. I worked there for maybe 1.5 years, 2 years. During that time, they encouraged me to become licensed as a professional engineer. So I took my PE test. I didn't pass it the first time, but I studied and I ended up passing it and got my PE license. And I thought I was doing pretty well there. Then they got involved in some merger activities and lo and behold, I ended up losing my job. So I had been working for 12 years and been laid off twice. and potentially transferred once, but I ended up leaving voluntarily. So I had to do some soul searching and saying, is this corporate life what I need to do? Is that set for me? So I decided while I was looking for a job, I would try to start my own business and see how that worked out. So I started my own business, D.W. Gates Engineering, in my house, in my basement, with no jobs, and used my contacts and the people I knew from work, and slowly built a pretty good practice, a pretty good engineering practice. One of my good fortune occurred when I ran into somebody who worked for Southwestern Bell, and they wanted to see more minorities doing engineering work there. And this person kind of took me under his wing, and I ended up doing quite a bit of work for Southwestern Bell, doing power design. As I started getting my business established, I really began to venture into other areas, mainly community service. And that's kind of where I made my name in Tulsa. I worked on engineering projects. I worked on the Performing Arts Center. I worked at the airport. I've done major projects, but I think most people know me more for public service type things I do. My passion right now is trying to get other people into careers where they can take care of themselves. Okay, there's no reason for people to work and not make a living, not break even, not be able to get a house. A lot of people put themselves in careers that aren't well paying. You don't have to be an engineer, you can be a technician, you can be an installer, you can work in videos. There's a lot of things you can do. A lot of kids don't know, so they're spending their time learning things or doing things that aren't going to get them where they want to be. So I try to work with kids and adults and try to get them to move into paths where there's a demand. Outside of mentoring and that type of stuff, if I want to relax and have fun, my deal is tennis. I love tennis. Like I tell people, I may not play well, but I play often. And I play in tournaments. Also, I coach and I teach tennis. Love to fish. Don't fish nearly as much as I would like to. And I love to do gardening. So I stay busy. I stay busy. My idea is make the world better for the next group. I'm not trying to, die with the most money in the bank. That's not my goal. My goal is to be known as a professional, as a decent person, as a good engineer, and somebody that tried to help people. Go Pokes!